Our third speaker, Melissa Randall. The purpose of her speech is to stimulate or inspire. Speech title, What Happened versus the story. Speech time, 8 to 10 minutes. This is project number 5 out of the Specialities Speech Manual to Uplift the Spirit. Melissa Randall has been a member of Sales Mastery 6178 for 4 years. She is a former past president. In 2013, she was the District 52nd. She was a District 52. Okay, and she did the Tall Tales speech contest. She was the winner. She's an extraordinary speaker. She earned her ALB. Tell me what that is.
Advanced Leader Bronze.
Thank you. And ACB.
Advanced Communicator Bronze.
All right. You have to stay up in here.
Right?
Her last speech was given exactly 1 year ago today. Wow. And after taking a year off to grow her business, Melissa has decided that she misses public speaking in her life. She's a baker. Bake for 200 people 3 times a day. She decided she's coming back to her roots. And she's jumping in and giving her first speech of this year. It's been a year. So please welcome one of our past presidents, Melissa Randall.
How many of you can remember a moment in your life where somebody said something to you that made you feel really small and insignificant? How many of you remember that moment so strongly that you decided right there you weren't going to talk to that person ever again? Or you were going to prove to them that you were better than what they thought. So many of us had moments in our life that ended up defining our entire life. Because somebody said, you aren't smart, like Winston was saying. You're ugly. You're insignificant. Your voice doesn't matter. And so what did we do? We made all of those things come true. And we allowed somebody else to take our power away from us. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest, today I want to talk about a possibility. One that might create freedom in your life if you're able to remember that day and that story that changed your whole life, and then realize the story that you created about what happened that day that defined your whole life. First, I'll tell you a little bit about me and my story to help you possibly relate to what I'm talking about. When I was a little girl, my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old, and my father got custody of my brother and I because he was the one with the job, and my mom thought that was the great decision for us. My father ended up getting married a couple years down the line to my stepmother. And some of you have heard some stories about this lady, and you're going to hear some more tonight. So you're all lucky. The stepmother came into my life, and she had 2 kids of her own, my stepbrother and sister. And then there was me and my little brother, and suddenly this man and woman were married with 4 kids in their house together. It was quickly that I realized that my stepsister was not my sister and I was not this woman's daughter, because the stepsister had long hair and the mother would brush it. I had long hair and I would get in trouble because I had knots in my hair and I couldn't get them out. And so the stepmom kept saying, if you don't get those knots out of your hair, I'm gonna cut it all off. And then one day she did, right at the ponytail holder. So I suddenly had a boy haircut. And I got made fun of it for it. But that wasn't bad, actually. That was kind of the good stuff. Because throughout this journey with this stepmother, I started learning that I was big-boned, just like my mother. And I remember looking at pictures of my mother and thinking, oh, how sad that she's big-boned. And God, I'm just like her. Which is funny now because I look at my bones and I think that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. I'm not big-boned. Whatever that means. And why it's bad, I don't know. But it was. My stepmother always let me know that I was fat. She told me that all the time. She's 4'11", never weighed 100 pounds, so that can give you some insight on that. This particular day, my life-defining moment that changed my life was a day at a swimming pool, at a barbecue picnic in the neighborhood with lots of kids and families. I was about 10 years old, and my real mother had given me my first big girl bathing suit. It was turquoise with some flowers on it, and it had one of those little flowery skirts, very appropriate for a 10-year-old. And I felt cute, because my mom gave it to me. And at that party, my stepmother, I know she was drunk, but still, she pointed me out at that swimming pool in front of all the kids and said, Melissa, you're too fat to be wearing a bathing suit like that. And in that moment, I was humiliated because all the kids around me were laughing. Oh, you're fat, you're fat. And I slowly got myself out of the swimming pool. And I put my clothes back on so I could be safe. And for the rest of that party, I just sat out by the pool. I didn't feel good. That's why I'm not in the swimming pool anymore. That moment made me feel ashamed and embarrassed of what I looked like. And I was never going to be humiliated like that ever again. So, for many years of my life, I came up with every single excuse as to why I am not getting in a bathing suit. My skin, it's so white. I'm gonna get a sunburn. Oh my gosh, are we swimming today? Really? I forgot my suit. Oh no, I don't want to borrow yours. I'm kind of weird about that kind of thing. Any kind of story, I came up with it. I don't like swimming in lake water. I don't like swimming in ocean water. From 10 years old all the way until today, I have never worn a bathing suit. Okay. It dawned on me recently that moment was a moment, it really happened, and it sucked. A woman made fun of me in front of a whole bunch of people, and that happened, it really happened. But what didn't happen was all the years of my entire life that I carried that story around with me. That story became who I am. I'm the girl that doesn't wear a bathing suit. And that's ridiculous. But I could not be that girl because I've always been that girl. So I just was her. And I hated that woman. In fact, I always called her the step bitch. And it was fun to just call her that. I made her the demon in my life for as long as I can remember. It was her fault I hated myself. It was her fault I felt small. It was her fault I felt ashamed of who I am and what I look like. Which then interfered with my relationship with my father because he was married to her and he wants to have a friendship with your father when he's married to the devil. What if what happened really happened, and the story you create about what happened isn't the same thing? Imagine the freedom you can have in your life if you can somehow separate those two things and let go of all the stories that make you feel small. Because I didn't have a relationship with my father, the story I created was, I'm unlovable. All men leave me. I'm not good enough. So guess what I did to every relationship I've had in my life with every man? I'm unlovable. All men leave me. I'm not good enough. And you know what? Every man that came into my life that did love me, I pushed them away with my own freaking stories. So of course they had to leave. They kept proving me right over and over again. I got to be right, all men leave, over and over and over and over again. And of course, I had no idea that it was me. What happened was, I didn't have a relationship with my father because he didn't protect me. And the story I created was all the other crap. And so that was my life for all of these years. Wow, how empty is that? No relationship with your father because a stepmother told you you were fat one day when you were 10 years old, and so you live as a 10-year-old for your whole freaking life, and you miss out on every opportunity to be loved, to be in a freaking bathing suit on the beach? What if you could separate those stories that you create in your life from what actually happened? Guess what? You get freedom. You know what I did? I called the stepmom on the phone. And we've had the stories about what you did, what I did, blah, blah, blah. She didn't care. I called her on the phone and I said, you know what? I've seen you through a filter my whole life. I have no idea who you are. I created you as this big, bad, mean guy, but I don't even know if you really are that. So I'm letting you go. You don't have to be that in my life anymore. 45 minutes of this woman yapping, I just kept getting back to the point. I'm letting you go so I can have a relationship with my father. And I told her I was sorry for hating her so bad and creating stories in my life that weren't actually happening to me anymore. And she paused at the very end, 45 minutes later, and said, Melissa, I think you're beautiful. She said, I think that you're innovative. And she said, I think you have a lot to contribute in this world. And I couldn't breathe. Because the big, bad, mean guy of my entire life just said everything I needed to hear to be free. And I wasn't even calling thinking I'd get that. And then she and I talked about me and my father having a relationship. So I called my dad and said, hey, guess what? I'm sorry for all the years that I pushed you away thinking that you didn't love me because of all the stories that I created in my life. And he said, I've been waiting for this phone call for more years than you'll ever know. And I set him free as well. And today, I am sharing my story with you because I feel like people can relate to that moment everything changed in your life and things got crappy. And you became small and stupid and ugly or whatever happened. And then you just created this story that went around for 10, 20, 30, 80, however many years of your life, and you don't get to live and be free. Think of the possibilities if you could just set the story from what happened freedom. Madam Toastmaster.